Hi, Minister. Good to see you. Thank you for making the time.
My pleasure, Vashi. Good morning.
Good morning. Minister, the Premier wrote back to the Prime Minister and in her letter, her public letter, said that he's overstating what's happening to make a political point, that your government is doing this for political reasons since the proposal is just being considered right now. Nothing has even come close to being decided. Does she have a point?
Well, I think where this all started was Premier Smith decided that we're going down a year-long process to see if Alberta should pull itself out of CPP. And I can tell you, the first day that she went to the podium, Vashi, my inbox blew up and it hasn't stopped since. And it's like in the high 90 percentile that people are like, what can the federal government do to keep my pension in the CPP? Like, it's one of the most popular things we did in 2016 when we stabilized CPP for a generation. So I think what the Prime Minister is doing and what we did with the letter was make it very clear to the Premier. And we said this, it was a message to the Premier, but also a very clear message that if anyone across the country, if any province were thinking of coming out of the pension plan, that we would defend Canadians and we would defend Canadians in that jurisdiction to be able to keep their pension plan in the CPP. So I think there's some, saber rattling with those letters, but it's from a very real and serious perspective that Albertans and Canadians are asking us to defend their interests inside the CPP, and that's what we're doing.
On principle, though, let's put aside the politics for a second. On principle, isn't it Alberta and every other province's right to opt out of CPP? I mean, when it was crafted in 1965, Quebec took the option not to be involved, and the same option is codified in there to provide other provinces, on principle, the same opportunity. Isn't that the case?
It certainly is the case. And look, Albertans have a right to go to a referendum if it goes that far. I know which side of the referendum I'll be on. I think the reason why, and I've been out on this since day one, and I did a scrum in the foyer of the House of Commons about it within days of Premier Smith going down this path. I mean, I think the reason why we're taking this so seriously is not just the integrity of CPP for Albertans and all Canadians, and it's literally among the best managed pension plans in the world. It's also that literally Albertans and Canadians don't need this distraction right now. They don't need this stress. They don't need this anxiety. And it's not just seniors. I talked to a 28-year-old resident in my riding who works for Peer Leader. He's done so for 9 years. And he said, Randy, I know when my pension date is. And tell me that my pension is going to be able to stay in the Canadian pension plan. And so just because you can, Vashi, doesn't mean you ought to. And even in the report that went to the government of Alberta's own briefing note that went to then Finance Minister Travis Toews, said it would be highly unlikely for the Alberta Investment Management Corporation to create a program that would provide returns at the same level or better than the Canada Pension Plan. So in good Alberta speak, Vashi, if it ain't broken, why fix it?
Because I think that the argument that they've put forward so far, and there's a couple of planks to it, but it essentially is you've got a younger workforce that has been contributing a lot over the duration of the time they've been investing, and they want to basically get a better return on that investment. Can you sympathize with that sentiment?
No, not at all. Because one of the great strengths of Alberta, and it's even, I mean, this is what's so strange. Alberta government under Jason Kenney did a big campaign across the country saying, come to Alberta. And your colleagues scrummed me on it and said, do you think that's a good idea to have Canadians move to Alberta? And my answer was absolutely. It's a great province. There's lots going on here. There's lots of opportunity. So what does it mean, Vashi? It means that we have one of the youngest populations in the country. So of course, like, look at the 28-year-old guy that I talked to you about. He's been contributing to the CPP since he was 19, 9 years ago. So we have a younger population, which means that Albertans are going to be contributing to that CPP over time. And then when they retire, here's the beautiful thing, whether it's here in Alberta or anywhere else in the country, they'll be able to benefit from the money they put in to get the pension that they rely on. And I just don't understand, unless it's a big distraction for Premier Smith from the fact that her renewables pause for 6 months has scared already $12 billion of investment away from the province. Possibly another $20 billion will leave the province. And so does she just need a distraction right now? And look, we get along in a lot of issues. Like childcare has gone extremely well. We're getting to the final strokes on healthcare. We even have an energy table. Think about that. The feds in the province are sitting down on energy. And yet on this issue, when you have a report that from LifeWorks, where the numbers are so far off balance, we have to stand up and defend Albertans and Canadians and really focus on the things that matter, like housing and ending homelessness and dealing with energy and cleaning up our climate. And so there are lots of things that we can work on together, but on this issue, we fiercely disagree. There
are, though, I think, and listening to some of the people tasked from the provincial government with talking about this, there is a certain sentiment underpinning the idea that they might be able to get a better deal for Albertans if they go it alone. And I'm wondering what responsibility for that lies with your government. I'm thinking, for example, of some of those fights that do occur between Alberta and the federal government, like over C-69, which Alberta said for a long time is not going to be helpful to this province. And the Supreme Court essentially just decided with a large portion in favor of a large portion of the argument they put forward. Or the NDP in the province and the current government joining forces to say these emissions caps that are coming up are not going to be helpful for this province as well. That has led to the fostering of a sentiment that for some reason seems to underpin the argument they're putting forward with this pension plan too, which is we think we can get a better deal for ourselves than Ottawa is. What responsibility does your government bear for that?
I don't think there's responsibility for picking a fight with pensioners over their pensions. That, like, we can have our disagreements on C-69, and look, the court has made it very clear that we can legislate in this area to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for the country. That's clear. We're going to make some tweaks to the legislation to respond to the court, but the idea somehow that federal provincial disagreements somehow lead you to go your own way for a pension plan, well then, why hasn't Ontario done the same thing? We had disagreement over the notwithstanding clause on labor recently. Why? I mean, is Saskatchewan going to pull out because of our disagreement over energy? I don't buy that logic. And actually, Vashi, I think it's a massive distraction for the provincial government right now. And I have to say, I'm really disappointed in the 30 Conservative MPs that represent Alberta in the House. They've been silent on this, and their leader has gone out and taken sort of a middle of the road thing, saying Albertans should stay in. But no single MP from Alberta has said one thing about CPP being good for Albertans. And so George Shahal from Calgary and me here at Edmonton Centre are fighting the fight for Albertans who literally want us to stay in the pension plan. And look, take a look at the numbers from Trevor Toomby. Trevor Toomby said that the math in the LifeWorks report is absolutely bonkers. And if by the same math in the LifeWorks report, if Ontario wanted to come out of the plan, Ontario would be entitled to more money that's actually in the plan.
Yeah, if Ontario and Alberta left, essentially, it would be the whole plan would dissipate.
It doesn't make any sense. And he also said that it would cost Canadians like $300 to $350 a year more just to stabilize the pension. So
is the federal government though going to come up with its own analysis on this? Like, I know that you're talking right now about your opposition to this, but logistically, what does that manifest in? How are you planning to oppose this? Because ultimately, if they do vote on a referendum and provide you with the years of written notice that are required, I mean, what can you do to stop it?
It's a great question, Vashi. And so the Prime Minister is very clear. He's asked all ministers to do what they can to support Albertans who want to stay in the pension plan and to defend the Canadian pension plan. So we're going to do that work. I suspect we'll have numbers from finance and various different departments on this over time. And look, should this get to a referendum, I will do what my constituents are asking me to do, which is defend their interests inside the CPP. It's like there's so much on Albertans' plates right now with what's happening in terms of, cost of living, and it's a bit of an attack on the middle class, actually, that people just want to know they can go to work, pay their pension. At some point, it's going to be there for them. And now they have these questions about what is it that we can do to defend them. So we're going to do what it is that we can. We will share.
What can you? Because there's nothing specific in what you mentioned there. I take your point that you'll do what you can and everything available to you. But what does that actually mean? Because from my understanding of the act that I read, once they come to you with the appropriate notice, you have to negotiate. Are you saying that you wouldn't allow it? Is there some way to do that?
Look, the legislation is really clear, right? The CPP lays it out. Like, you have to give notice, and then you have to leave the pension plan within 3 years, and there's some days and times in there. And look, if Albertans decide in a referendum to pull out of the CPP, they will be able to do that, but it's a one-way ticket. You don't get to come back. That's also very clear in this legislation. So I think it would be destabilizing for a phenomenal 60-plus year, incredible management expertise. The other thing that we're going to do, Vashi, is we're going to make it very clear to Albertans that the Canada Pension Plan is completely separate from any government whatsoever, whereas the Alberta Investment Management Corporation responds directly to directions from the Premier's office, and the Alberta Teachers Federation has had their own pension plans rated so that the province can spend money. There is literally no separation between the government of the day and the Alberta Investment Management Corporation, and so it's literally, if we're going to talk in financial terms, it's high risk, low return, and I think Albertans will take a very hard look at this. I hope it doesn't get to a referendum, but if it does, I'll be fighting on the side of Albertans staying in the CPP.
Minister Boissonnault, I'll leave it there. Appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.